o'clock and let the minutes reflect all members are present.
1 to 2 minutes late.
Yeah.
One time.
I was going to allow Mr. Clem to do a uniform inspection tonight, but I will refer to that for next time.
It was cold after that.
First thing I'd like to do is start this evening by sending out our deepest sympathy to the Wayman family for the loss of Steve's wife, Donna. Our sympathy and prayers go out to the entire family. Take a look at the consent calendar and the minutes from last time. And if there are no additions or corrections, take a motion to approve them both.
I'll make a motion that we accept the minutes that were printed.
Second?
Motion and second.
Lisa Snodgrass,
Yes.
Charlie Shoemaker,
Yes.
Jeff Glenn,
Yes.
Jim Westmoreland,
Yes.
Dean Miller.
Yes. Okay, first thing on the item is hearing from our audience. Just so everyone, especially our visitors, are aware, the meetings are taped and televised. And what we do is, this section is limited to 15 minutes and supposed to be 2 minutes per speaker, but since we may only have one, we'll maybe indulge a little bit. So, Casey, I assume you're here for comments tonight?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I just, as you guys are probably aware, I wrote a letter voicing some concerns with the way kind of was treated, getting a couple burn permits from Rick Hughes and some of the firefighter staff members. You're already familiar with the letter I wrote. I received a response letter from Rick and kind of blown out of the water and really disappointed with the responses I got. And obviously the responses in this letter, if you guys aren't familiar with it, are still basically voicing his same concerns that he has made allegations against me or accusations that we're doing some illegal business practices or whatnot. So I kind of just want to go through this letter and maybe ask some questions if I can to get some clarification, because a lot of this information is very inaccurate, and it's very concerning to me as a resident of Lansing. So Rick, I guess you attempt to answer my questions in this letter, which you really didn't answer anything of my concerns.
Just a second. You
So-
guys want a copy? You guys? Yeah, I got it in here.
Let me.
Are you guys familiar with the letter that I wrote?
I read it.
Okay. So, basically, I have received permits in the past. I just kind of want to summarize this and maybe ask a couple questions. 4, 5, 6, 7 years ago, no issues, no problems. I'm not asking them to keep a written log of all this. I'm not asking for anybody to do any more extra work than I mean, it's a simple process. You call in and get a burn permit, you look at the pile, you burn, okay, no big deal. I'm not trying to make a big deal of this whole process, but that's kind of what he has done with me and what I'm doing, so I felt like it needs to be addressed.
Before you start, will you, for the council, will you state your name,
Sure.
so they know who you are?
Casey Worrell, resident of Lansing.
Thank you. There's this notion from Rick that just because I'm a small business owner, self-employed, been a small business owner for 7, 8 years now, that we're hearing that we're bringing some of my work home with me, using a lot in town that I own to burn trash and brush and clippings. It's a violation of KDHE regulations, which I'm very well aware of that. And he's brought this up on multiple occasions that this has happened, but yet to my knowledge, I haven't received any proof, any information of what these complaints refer to, other than just him stating that this is going on. So without anything other than that, I don't really know what to say other than that's not.
You're saying you're not doing that?
Yeah,
Okay.
correct,
All right.
correct. And basically, I mean, I guess he's trying to back this up by saying several other lawn companies in the area have tried this at one time or another. We've worked with all of them. That's fine. I'm not every other lawn company in the area. I can only speak for myself, so I don't know what they've been doing. It's not our practice to operate that way if that's what they're doing. Had to notify the KDHE, had people involved. Didn't pertain to my situation. He says he's issued several permits to me, and that's why he had his concern. I don't know, several permits, if three over the span of 2 years, is that considered several?
Several is three, yeah, in my way.
That's several permits?
One, couple, two.
Over the course of 2 years?
I don't want, like I told you when you met with me a year ago, I don't keep track of who we issue permits to and how many. we
Well, I've
issue.
got the 3 that I've gotten in the past 2 years, so I've got
If it's three,
copies
then
of
we
those.
give you three, yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know that that constitutes several, but anyway,
Is that accurate, Casey, December 27, 8, 9?
no, that's not accurate. The permit that I got is, it was on, I can't read the writing that they wrote on here, but it's December 21st through the 23rd. And every time we burn, we don't burn for 3 days. We burn that day and that's it. I mean, there's really no way to burn for 3 days. I mean, we don't have that much there to do.
When you put the fire out at dusk?
Yeah, correct, yeah, and these properties, this is a property in town that I own on Morgan Street, in case you all aren't familiar. It's a property it's my property I own, that's a part of town, if you guys are familiar with this area, that's been over there for 100 years, and, I purchased a couple properties over there, we're doing some work, we do some tree trimming, we do some cleanup whenever we're slow at work. And if you notice on these burn permits, they've all been in the wintertime, so this is just something for us to do as a company. Not really as a company, this is just something I do on my own. And occasionally there's an employee of mine or two that I'm trying to get hours in for them to stay busy at work, so they don't have to go on unemployment. So I don't know if that's the reason that he keeps tying this to this being a work issue, something that's tied to my company, but it's totally not. It's totally not a work issue at all. It's just me being a resident, getting a permit to burn and do some cleanup on the lot. He says there was a neighbor that complained and the fire had been left unattended and smoldering for several days. We burned that day of the permit on the 21st. There's no water on the site. This is an empty lot. There's no water. So we dug with our uniloader to cover it up with dirt the best we could. If that wasn't good enough, it took a week to 10 days for them to notify me to say. And then it's very easy if you go back there 10 days after and say, well, nobody was attending it, or I'm just flabbergasted by that remark from Rick that nobody was attending the fire. Because nobody notified me from the city, nobody from the codes, nobody, I get this in a letter, after I complain. So, not sure where that come from or how accurate that is. So where you say that somebody left the fire unattended? I don't know. Was there
Well, I
any
sent you pictures. Did you get a copy of the pictures?
pictures of?
Of the fire that's left, the stuff that's left.
Yeah,
that we
this
had-
is, I'm talking about the first.
That we had to go back and put
Yeah,
out.
yeah, well, I'll get to that. I'm
Oh,
talking
yeah.
about the very first, this is in relation to the very first permit I got that you said was left
Okay,
unattended.
when was that? What date?
January, or December 21st, 2013,
2012?
2012, it says 13 on here, but it should be 12.
Okay, we had to go back up, we've got fire reports where we've gone back up, and neighbors have complained, because we don't go back up Morgan Street, Morgan Street, we don't drive around through normally, and we've gone back up and put out all your fires. And we have called you on several occasions, your fires.
No, you haven't, Rick. It says in here, you just notified your staff not to give me another burn permit. Nobody ever
Because
notified
of
me.
that reason.
Well, nobody, if it was a fire still burning, was that important of a matter? Shouldn't I have been notified? Nobody notified me. You just simply told your staff not to give him another burn permit unless he calls
I'm
in.
not gonna argue with you.
Well, I'm not trying to argue with him. I'm just telling you what happened. I'm telling these people what happened because you're saying this happened and it didn't happen.
Yes, it did.
Well, if somebody called in a
I've
week
talked
later
to
with
every-
fire still burning, I don't
Every
understand.
one of my staff has reviewed this letter for accuracy, and every one of them agree that it's accurate.
Okay, well, I can tell you it's not accurate because we burned on December 21st. That's what the permit says. Your letter right here says on January 2nd. That's 8, 9, 10 days later. I don't live at the property. We burned that day, it has to be out by dark. So 10 days later, in a matter of 10 days, somebody calls and says, I mean, I don't understand that. If it was still burning, I figured somebody would call the very next day. And I'd be notified, to be, I mean, burning and smoldering, I don't know if you're considering that the same thing, but.
Burning and smoldering are the same thing.
Okay, well, then they waited a week to call in, I don't know what to do, I don't know what to do in 10 days if I don't hear nothing from nobody. So, and if that's what you're trying to say here, but you don't tell me, you just tell your staff, hey, just next time he calls in, don't give him a burn permit until I talk to him. Well, after that incident, I did come and talk to you,
Right.
and we found that none of this, we had no proof of this, we had no proof of
Our
anybody.
main concern, like when we talked a year ago.
Yeah,
And my main concern was that you were possibly bringing in brush from other sites, since you, in your letter, you mentioned C.W. Long. You're the one that brought
Yeah.
up you're the one
Yeah.
that brought up the business.
right, and
That's
I'll tell
why
you the
there is
reason,
this-
I'll tell you the reason I mentioned that, Rick, I'll tell you the reason I mentioned
Only
that
one
is
speak
because
at a time.
you're responsible for staff members, I'm responsible for staff members. And if you have a culture when they're gonna show up and start interrogating people about where this stuff came from, or without even, no fire safety, no educational, no nothing at all, from public servants, that's a culture that is bred that is ridiculous. And you're the leader at this organization, this municipality. And if that's the culture you're breeding as a leader, I'm dumbfounded by it. I'm flabbergasted. And if they can't do anything because on two of these occasions where I burned, you were out of town, they don't have permission to come give me a burn permit because you're out of town? I don't understand that.
Can I be
If my
allowed?
house caught on fire,
I'm done, Dean. I'm not gonna speak to him anymore. He's
All right.
cut me off 3 times.
sorry for interrupting.
Well, I'm surprised that the city of Lansing allows you to burn stuff that pollutes atmosphere, so box mattresses, asphalt shingles. I don't
Well,
know.
I haven't got to that yet, sir, but I can explain that.
Yeah. I mean, seems like that's the kind of stuff that ought to go to the transfer point, to be put in a
Absolutely,
landfill.
absolutely, and it does.
Casey, you got about 3 more minutes. So if you
Okay,
want-
well,
Why don't
I'll-
you want information, give to the board?
Yeah, I'll sum this up real quick and I'll get to these pictures.
Perfect.
On these first 2 occasions, they told me that I was responsible for putting the fire out. I asked them, I said, hey, I have no access to water here, do I get any assistance? No, you need to do that on your own, you need to bring a water truck or whatever. Okay, so we just covered up with dirt because I have no access to water. So, on this 3rd occasion, that we burned, same thing, they show up, they say, well, where'd this come from, what are you doing? You know, blah, blah, blah. Well, they issued a permit because the pile is legal. This is an area where there's kids all in the neighborhoods, it's an older part of town, it's been there, there's things that have been there. You probably can't walk 10 feet without finding something on the ground, a piece of trash or something metal or something that's not supposed to be in a fire. So these pictures that Rick submitted back to me, they called me and said, once again, somebody's complaining that you're fired. This is a week later after the burn permit day. He calls again a week later and says, okay, somebody's called and says your fire's still burning. It's a little windy today, we're concerned. Would you like us to put it out? Well, this time they're gonna go put it out for me. Okay, well, maybe because he wants to try to take pictures, because he hasn't found anything wrong that we've done up to this point, trying to find something that we're just doing wrong, trying to put some substance to a situation where there isn't any. And so, yeah, I've got the pictures, and I don't know, I mean, if this coil spring or these posts were on the bottom, we cut this tree down where the stump is right here. There's a pile of rocks that were already next to the tree, I mean, and if there was a coil spring in there from a mattress, lock me up, take me to jail, I'm sorry, but I have no idea what's in there. I mean, if there's a little blue piece of a barrel that looks like it was burned, I mean, there's a picture of a little coil spring on the bottom. I mean, yeah, there probably is some trash on the ground below the pile of brush, but there's nothing intentionally set in here. You can see in these other pictures that he took, which I don't know what these even pertain to, there's a pile of junk and debris laying there, but it's not burned. That's stuff that's just sitting there that we've cleaned up over the course of a few months that is gonna go to the transfer station. So it's not getting burned. So I guess I'm not sure what those pictures were in relation to. So,
Does Lansing not have a burn site like Leavenworth does? Leavenworth's got a burn site down by the river.
I'm not familiar with if they do, sir. I've always gotten a burn permit to burn stuff on my
Right on your
property.
property.
Right, because that's what I thought the rules were. Right. I thought it was okay to do that.
Well, I live out in the country, when I get a burn permit from the county, they tell me don't burn anything that produces heavy smoke, you know, basically it's just clean, brush and that kind of thing.
Right, and well, yeah, and I mean, I don't think anybody called in to complain about heavy black smoke, so if we're burning in town, I think somebody would. So,
I'm just concerned about the difference between what the county says and Lansing's regulations.
Well, I think that's the big point right there. Number one, historically, the city issued permits. They decided, leave it to the guys who know fires to issue it, so I had mixed emotions about the fire district putting out the burn permits, but it turned out that way. They are working on their regulations right now for burning in the city limits. Not an issue out in Delaware or High Prairie Township, but in the city limits.
Okay.
If anyone else has questions, but my main concern thus far is this has become adversarial and doesn't need to. That, just like when you called me about getting the burn permit when Rick was out of town, I talked to Jeff and basically asked him if he would inspect the pile, if it's legal, issue the permit.
Right.
Very simple. That's what the guys do. They'll come out, inspect, issue the permit. Being called 4, 5, 6, 7 days later, they don't patrol the area like Rick was saying. Somebody called for them to go up there. What's gonna happen in the very near future, and the city reps, if they have comment to make, please do. These are not the policemen. They'll issue the permits, they put out fires, they respond to accidents. The city now is gonna take responsibility also. If there's a call, they are to let the city know, come out and inspect, and then contact the owner, or would you like us to go put out the fire? And what are the ramifications then as far as
Right. and-
fines or whatever?
Right, Dean, and that's part of my concern. I mean, they acted totally like the policeman in this situation, and on the third occasion that I burned, the city code enforcement official showed up 5 minutes after they left. And again, sat there and talked to her for 10 minutes. We were applauded for our efforts in trying to clean up the property that we were cleaning up. So it was just amazing that they're
Well,
still trying to find
and to
something
that point,
a
I
problem.
do agree with you that, I don't wanna see adversarial circumstances between the fire district and citizens here. But just to let you know, we're having discussion right now, and the fire district will be taking a step back, if you will, but at
Sure.
least working within the jurisdiction of the fire district, which when it comes down to fines and things that are inappropriate, we don't need to judge that. But like I told Jeff, check the pile, if it's legal, issue a permit,
I agree,
and he did.
I agree.
If the neighbors call because of smoke, would you please come put this out? That's after they have probably had the smoke for 4, 5, 6 days. Like I say, the guys don't go out there and patrol the streets. But what's going to happen, in my mind, is the city's going to go out, and when they hear a complaint, they'll make that determination, what needs to be done.
Yeah, and I guess another disappointment, as a taxpayer-funded position, I think this is, or public service, I guess I could say, I asked for assistance in putting out my fire, but I didn't get it. But it was awful weird that the third time that they offered very nicely to come put out my fire, that was still smoldering. And that's when, obviously, the reason was to go take pictures to try to find something. That's my opinion, so I felt like that was the reason they offered to do it this time. So, I mean, I got kind of all kinds of different rules here, what was going on, and so now I'm confused on what they'll do for citizens and what they won't do.
Well, I would be surprised if the fire district makes a policy that go ahead and start a fire wherever, and we'll come put it out. As stated later in Rick's letter, issuing 150 to 200 permits a year, that's a lot of taxpayers' dollars going out and putting out every fire at dusk.
Right.
If you're going to have a burn permit, I think it states in there clearly that it will be out by dusk.
Right.
So depending on the fire department to come out and put fires out every time a permit's issued, I think is not cost effective whatsoever. But good information. I'm glad you came tonight with the
Yeah.
information. The rest of the board's now aware of what's going on.
Thank you.
Wanted to make you aware that this delineation of responsibility will be separating out, and the city's working on the codes now for burning ordinances, fire pits, for like campfires, things like that, will be addressed too.
Well, and the whole idea here is not to create a bunch more work for our fire department, because I'm sure they have, not that it's any of my concern what their daily duties are. But yeah, if they could stick to the fire issues and leave the investigative work or whatever up to the codes or the police department, I have no issues with that. I just caught off guard that.
Well, on the other side of the coin, I feel like they were trying to avoid a penalty or a fine. Had the city, if it's the police, I don't even know, I don't care. we are in the fire protection business, but if they're gonna come out and inspect and decide, yeah, we need to slap a fine here, and this is 3 times, now this has happened, so we'll, $300 this time, 500 next time, 1,000. I have no idea, and I don't wanna get into that.
Yeah, no, I don't either.
But I'm hoping
I don't
they
wanna
came
find
out to take care of it to avoid that type of penalty for you out there at the place, but they don't just go, they're called to go to put out a
Yeah,
fire.
and I have no anticipation of wasting taxpayer money to have them go put out everybody's burn permit. That's not what I'm standing up soliciting for. I just simply wanted to state my situation with the situation at hand and the lack of resources to do that. So I was kind of expecting a little bit more, kindness, generosity, for lack of a better word, to say, sure, you know, I understand the situation. Yeah, we can take care of that, no problem. I mean, this is in the middle of January when there's nothing else.
Well, I want you to go out here tonight feeling that you're a citizen and you're gonna be treated just as equal as any other citizen.
Thank you, that's all I need, that's all I'm
And
asking for.
thing you have to understand, and this is partly where Rick comes from, that once that permit is issued and the fire starts, if they get called to another fire or something else, when we're limited in the amount of firemen we have, then they can't get there right now. Now, when another citizen calls and they say it's smoldering, they're worried about their residents from accident. So not only you, but we have to protect all citizens, and we're gonna be fair. We're gonna make sure the chief and the fire department treats everybody equal. Now, from this day forward, if you ask for a permit, then you can't expect no more than what anybody else gets. And if you start a fire, then you better figure out if you got some buckets of water there, if you don't have water, to put it out. Because,
Right.
you know, I mean, until they can get there,
Yeah,
somebody's
no,
house
yeah.
could already be caught on fire.
Yeah, no, I mean, I feel like I'm a smart individual, and we're not gonna burn on windy days, we don't, I mean, we understand the rules, and we do that, so, there's no complaints in here about, asking people to show up to put a fire out. That's, all the complaints were things that were just found to not be true. And the last thing I'll say, in conclusion, I've been through this before in other areas, but I guess it's easy for somebody to call in and complain, even anonymously or whatever. I just think if we wanna implement anything, we need to implement a system to help Rick validate, make sure that's a valid complaint or concern, before we just start automatically saying, okay, this is what's going on. Because I don't know that any of those complaints, if there's any evidence, if anybody stood behind their remarks, I don't think there's any of that. So therefore, I'm gonna say,
Well, what
You
you
know.
just described is a follow on to what Dean said. Once a, in my opinion now, once a fire permit is issued and you're burning like 41 North, and you put the fire out at night, or you don't quite get it out and smolder, if somebody complains, then that's when the city should send the police out, or the environmental guy or something, and he's the one that should, he or she is the one should assess the situation and say, well, you know, we got a record of who made the complaint and whatever.
right, and I understand that, and they did.
It's not ours.
There was 2 times they called me and said, hey, we received a call that, and this has been a week later, again, I don't live at the property, so I don't know what goes on between the time we get done burning that night and 10 days later, but they were kind enough to call me and say, hey, we received this call, and I said, sure, if that's what you guys do. Obviously, they had time to do it one time, but the next time, or the first time they didn't. I don't have a problem with that, that's great, I think that's great, public service from them to say, hey, you know, and I mean, I don't know if my fire's still smoldering, if you feel like I need to be cited, you know.
Well, like I said,
I don't really think that's
I agree with what
necessary,
you
a
say.
simple phone call will solve it.
and the work at the city right now is working on that, it's their ordinances. But just like tonight, we're gonna talk about the employee manual, it's black and white. It's not different for every individual that walks in the door, so you're absolutely correct on that, that here's the statute, and we're gonna go out, inspect the fire piles, issue the permit, go from there. You're signing a contract basically by taking the permit that you'll do certain things. Then after that, if there's a call made, a complaint or whatever, I don't want the fire district to be the judge and jury on that. They shouldn't be. It's the city
I
that needs to
agree.
go out and make a decision. on if there's something being done inappropriately. If the fire department's needed to go put a fire out or whatever, that's fine, but, we're not gonna issue not issue fees or penalties on that. That's up to the city to do. But, it's gonna be the same rules for everybody.
Yeah, thank you.
So,
That's all I
appreciate,
ask, that's fairness.
appreciate the information, you taking the time to come down and, informing. I was familiar with what's going on and letting the rest of the board know.
Yeah, I just wanted to stand up as a resident and say, you know, when you receive some accusations that aren't nowhere near to be true, I just wanna let you know.
Where do
They were
you, where
very
do you
concerned.
live at?
I live out in the county, in Loveland
Up by
County.
me.
Mhm.
Out that way.
Cause where you're talking
I'm
about,
right down the street from Dean on 163rd Street.
this property you're talking about is
City limits.
directly.
This property is in the city where the issues are.
Yeah,
Mhm.
it's 2 blocks behind me, straight behind.
Well, if the wind's blowing that way, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, it's the biggest lot on the street, on the block, so it's,
I think I know where you're.
yeah, and it, quite frankly, we think it looks a lot better than it did before, so.
All right, appreciate the time,
All right,
Casey.
Thank you,
Thank you.
appreciate your time, thank you so much.
Casey,
Yes, sir.
that's your briefcase.
Oh, yes, thank you.
All right, chief's report.
First off, I'd like to apologize to the board for my outburst. I get very frustrated when I am asked for my opinion and I get cut off numerous times. So I find it best just to shut up and before I say something or do something that I will regret later. So I do apologize to the board and to the public watching. Okay, the only thing I have to add is the auditor will be here next Monday, finally. We've been delayed on that a little bit this year. And our annual fireman's dinner will be June 7th. That's the preliminary date we have, so we have no details yet, but Saturday night the 7th will be dinner.
Do you want to put out information about Gary? Ken?
No, publicly.
Okay, I didn't know if you, that's fine. We'll wait on that.
The TV. No.
Yeah. The other thing I was, yeah, we'll wait on that too.
That's Saturday.
Supposed to be. That's what I was told.
Okay, nothing else to add. Items for action. Jim, you got your first quarter here.
Yeah, I distributed a copy of it. As Rick indicated at the last meeting, from that point until the end of the first quarter, our expenditures have jumped up quite a bit. I guess it's that time of year. Bottom line, overall, total line, we're at just a smidgen over exactly the 25% straight line figure. 0.24 of a percentage point, 25.24. But the rest of the line items, the total personnel, we're only under straight line about 1.7%. And contractor only negligibly right at straight lines. And the non-salary is the one that jumped up a little bit, almost 4% over straight line. So really the straight line amount should be $206,051.25. We're setting at $208,015.16. So, you know, we're only down $1,964. So, you know, we might, so right now, we don't have potential for carrying over much in the next quarter. But we will see what the second quarter, we may end up dropping below straight line again. I didn't have a chance to talk to you, Rick, but, where am I at here, At 33,449.7, is that the truck payment?
That was, two payments, that's one payment on the new truck that we don't have and payment on the existing truck.
Okay, well, if that's gonna be happening every month,
No, that's,
Is
those
that-
are semi-annual.
semi-annual, okay. So we may be able to absorb that,
Yeah.
then. What I'm getting at is, we may,
Yeah, see, we're at 40 or 38%, 34% there, and then on insurance, we're at 42%. Because of workman's comp, we take a big hit right off the bat, first of the year on workman's comp, so.
so we may or may not
Yeah,
have
it'll
to
back down.
do an increase in our budget depending on.
Well, we can't do an increase, we don't, what we get's what we get.
So we just take money out of the savings account if we
But
need
if
it?
we have to, we'll take it out of our equipment reserve, yeah,
Yeah.
we'll have to do budget amendment and all that, but, no, right now, we took a big hit on workman's comp and then truck payments, so it'll level out.
Well, I would say overall, we're in good shape at the end of the first quarter.
I bet April has increased a few costs with brush fires and
Yeah, we, doubled our fuel bill,
I figure.
for April, or for March rather. And
Running
our
around brush
natural
fire.
gas and propane was pretty high, so, but like Jim found out, we've already bought our propane, so it's on prepaid, but natural gas is monthly, and,
Yeah.
yeah, we're almost at the limit on our natural gas for the year, so.
Okay.
Okay, great. Any questions about the treasury report? If none, a motion to accept as Jim presented.
I move to accept my treasurer's report.
That's a good way to do it. Jim, you can't second it, so someone else.
I'll
can.
second.
Okay, thank you, Lisa.
Lisa Snodgrass,
Yes.
Charlie Shoemaker,
Yes.
Jeff Flynn,
Yes.
Jim Westmoreland,
Yes.
Dean Mobile.
Yes. Items for discussion. We'll just go with any concerns right now from board members. How'd you talk with the other night? With the city?
I think it went pretty well.
I think that you did a fantastic job.
Good.
Good presentation, and Chief had to help us out a little bit.
Yeah.
Said there was a big crowd, really.
Yeah, that's my only complaint, somebody left as soon as they gave their presentations, and left the rest of us there.
That's not really, like,
For future planning, since Jeff did it this year, Lisa's doing it next year?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Just so we
Love
know.
it. And then Charlie, because I did the last two.
Well,
yeah, but I helped supervise
You
it, so I
did.
get counted as being.
Emotional support, thank you.
Yeah, right.
Okay, I was there for the first time we were supposed to present, so I think I should get some.
Oh, absentee, yes, okay. Anything else, gentlemen, on this side?
Not unless you, after we talk to the city, they are going to check into basically what I told him. You must have talked to somebody, but they're looking at that and
Right.
the amount of the fines, and they are knowledgeable now that we do have citizens that do bring in from commercial businesses and burn on their property, and it's stated, from what you tell me if I'm wrong, Chief, that anybody burning at a residence, it has to be that residential from that property.
Correct.
You can't bring it from another property.
Right, yeah.
That is correct.
And this is what has, not with him, but other people do have businesses, and they're loading up stuff and they're bringing it into Lansing and burning it at their residence. I've seen it myself because I live right on Eisenhower Road, and I wondered where they were going. And if they turn on Seventh Street, I know they're not going to go to the dump on Five Highway.
Right.
And there were two commissioners, councilmen, that observed the same thing because they both live up that direction. So that is something I think not only is he watching, but I think the city's gonna watch that. And then if it takes warrant and what was said earlier, then, and it continues, then they're gonna get fined. And they're looking at all of that. Is that what you got out of
That
it?
is what I got out of it.
Okay.
And that's still, as far as I'm concerned, part of our job, that's why we do go out and inspect piles, because we have denied burn permits on several people, my neighbor's one of them. we're very good friends, and I walked up there and, no, Bob, you can't burn, you don't take this stuff out of here. And the guys have all done the same thing, so.
There was one thing that, just so the rest of the board knows, because, and Lisa was Lansing, that the way I took it from what they told us, that if there's no, and you correct me if I'm wrong, if there's no policeman can get out there and the fire department goes out there, then they actually can, to a certain extent, write a citation and give it to the city, and they'll
We can file a complaint.
Yeah, the
file a
recommendation.
complaint.
Yes, that's right.
That's the word I wanted to use.
Yeah.
File a complaint, and then they would be issued a citation from the city, and, yeah. I didn't want to say it wrong.
Correct, and my standpoint is I don't wanna put any of the fire district members on the spot to make that determination. You've got the job, you're trained to do it, you inspect the pile, if it's correct, issue the permit, if it's incorrect, file a complaint, and let the city
Yeah.
police their own,
Right,
which is not our job.
and that's what I brought, I got up and brought that to the city's attention.
And that's what we do, we try to keep the police out of it, just like in this case, you know, called him up, well, I can't get out there till after night, well, the neighbors are smelling the smoke for several days now, so we did go up.
Well, you have an obligation to
But
the
again,
neighbors.
like,
How come, how
but I
come he,
forget, we cannot go out and put out everybody's fires.
No.
how come he don't make sure it's out completely out at night instead of letting it smolder?
But
It'll be
his
fine.
excuse, he did not have water, so we buried it. Well, that's gonna smolder forever,
Will smolder forever?
and the neighbors don't wanna smell the smoke. which
I didn't dare ask him, but I loved it. Went right down when he said he lives in the country. Why the hell didn't he burn everything out of his property?
We've been to his house in the country, and.
Does he have enough real estate to burn everything?
Mhm. We had, several years ago, we had, two of my officers almost got into a fist fight with him. And this has been several years ago, that's when he first came up on our radar, so his house in the country is still flat decay.
And bottom line, the rules should be the same for everybody,
Yep.
and black and white, and
And I wasn't even on scene for that, so. It's can't blame me. And the two officers aren't even here, so.
okay, Jim, anything? Lisa? Okay, I have no concern here, but I do want to move this along, do a little housekeeping since we didn't have a whole lot on the agenda here. And Rick, if you want to go ahead and talk about recommended changes to the employee manual.
This has to be updated on a regular basis, and it's been 2 years since we've updated it, and we've had some issues the last week or so, so I kind of went through this and trying to tighten up some loopholes that are in here. So page 2, it goes about how we're gonna have, how many officers, how many lieutenants, and I just put a notice down at the bottom, the above numbers are approximation, can be more, can be less. Somebody will come in and say, well, you gotta have this, you gotta have that. Well, no, it's just an approximation.
So, I don't think we need that. And the only reason I bring that up, Rick, I think it's. I
I'm trying to be a
understand-
lawyer.
Yeah, that's fine. I think it's, where you talk about the number of career firefighters will be determined by the fire board. That kind of indicates that there can be fluctuation. You can change that a little bit. And then I reworded the first part of that a little bit, so we can talk about that. Fire District 1 current staffing levels, just say that's kind of where we're currently at. I think you get to the same point of what you're trying to get to. And it might be worth just having them kind of maybe plug that in and we can talk about it next time, because we can't vote on anything tonight, right?
Correct.
No, I mean, I can, but we don't want to.
So I just kind of wrote the language on the front side, and I think if you play with the sentence in there, I would use the one where it talks about the board making, let me see that back again. Where it talks about the number of career firefighters, you might change the language there to say the number of career firefighter personnel or something. It will be determined by the fire board. I think that just kind of states that it can fluctuate. I don't know if we need more than that.
I was thinking along the same lines, of course, I'm big on uniformity and the way the system comes down. So I had in mind that instead of changing the organization every time we promote a lieutenant or we have another captain or something like that, if we just listed the possibilities, that we have a fire chief, we can have assistant chiefs, we have captains, we have lieutenants. With the caveat at the bottom, shall be but not limited to those positions as determined by the fire board.
Yeah, let's change it, I like that too.
But that way, it's wide open that we do have chief, we could have assistant chiefs, we do have captains,
Just
lieutenants.
open
and
at the
firefighters.
discretion of the board.
Correct.
Yes.
And that way, it's good, indefinite, we don't have to change it every 2 years.
And.
Yeah, a variable number of staff, as defined by the following possible positions or something like that. And no putting numbers. Is that what you're saying, no putting numbers on? Or not?
I agree.
Yeah, I agree, yeah.
If we list
Just-
positions
just
without
list a
numbers.
category of job description,
Yeah.
Correct.
yeah,
Yeah, and that way it's
job description.
uniform unless we add a rank or something, then we don't have to change this every year. John?
And per se, we don't need a, safety officer.
We've got one now because,
And that's
yeah,
partially because of me, indirectly, when I said, well, you know, you're not gonna be a assistant chief, and I thought we ought to do it in that position.
and it's,
And my only concern with that is I didn't want that to be a position we actually have to fill, because I thought as chief, you can assign the captain or any of the lieutenants to that position,
Yeah.
or anybody else.
yeah, all I was trying to do is think of it as a lawyer, well, somebody's gonna come and say, well, you know, because it does say approximately, you know, one on the very
Right,
first
and that was
one,
the
you know.
only thing that- on that.
I've got
part.
too many lawyers really.
I didn't want that to be a position that we had to fill, maintain, or even pay.
Right, agreed. So, Dean, you got something on yours?
Yeah, I'll work on it with you there.
Okay. Okay, page 8, unless you guys had something in there, and that's why I sent it to you, if you guys want to change something else in there. At 10.3.3, employees failure to report at the beginning of works shall constitute absence without leave, and I wanted to add, this will include regular scheduled bi-monthly training sessions. I've told our paid guys that our bi-monthly training sessions aren't mandatory, and one or two of them are kind of, well,
For a paid employee.
From a paid standpoint?
Yeah.
Is it paid?
yeah, they're
Yeah, I
paid,
think
they're
you
paid to
should-
be here, and there's, you know, so
Absolutely.
training, so I want to tighten that up.
I think, you may put in there for paid, employees.
Well, this is the paid employees manual, so.
I think you're right, thank you.
Because we do have a volunteer manual,
I feel like an idiot, that's great.
No, you're fine, you're fine. And then 10.3.5, volunteers will not be allowed to be paid more than 36 hours on incidents in a bi-weekly period. I want to change that to weekly. We don't work more than 36 hours a week. Well,
I hope not.
last year we did a lot because we only had 2 guys backfilling. And this year we've got five now, so, but this last 2 weeks, just about every shift, once or at night, we've had volunteers, so I've been working some of them, you know, like now this week, we won't have anybody except for Chris tonight. But, there's some times where I've been working 36 hours a week, so. We can change.
And you
take
still
the
have,
bi-weekly out of there.
Plenty of volunteers to back.
Yeah, but like I say, for the last couple of weeks, I've had to work them, some of them 36 hours.
They
Because they're
paid.
just- Yeah, they're paid.
But you can't substitute volunteers in for that?
No, that's the volunteers.
Oh, thank you.
Right now, what this policy says, a volunteer can only work 36 hours a pay period. I want to change it to a week. And it doesn't happen all the time. But there's some times where, you know, like I say, the last 2 weeks, Tony's been gone, just about everybody's taken
Oh, I see.
some vacation time, so I've
Yeah.
really hit the volunteers hard these last 2
Well, again, you're just making this the worst case scenario.
Yeah, you know, it's not gonna be
May not
every
happen,
week, it's
but-
not gonna be every week, but I've done it before, so I don't wanna,
Okay.
and that's why that's there.
Is that it?
One more on 12. And that got in there, and I don't remember if one of you board members wanted to put that in there, but the very top line, volunteers working open shift on a holiday will receive 1.5 times their compensated rate. I don't understand why you put that in there.
Well, I don't know either.
So,
Who is it?
it's in there, and sounds like something.
Come on, I don't own my own business, we don't do that.
So I wanted to take, you know, the volunteer works, right now our policy says that the guys cannot take a holiday off. But if they come in sick or something, of course, if they call in sick, then they have to have a emergency room notice that they're sick, and then if I would have to call a volunteer, then it would just be straight time backfill.
You're asking a volunteer to volunteer for that time, or you're telling them that?
No, that, he would still volunteer, he would still be paid straight time, not time and a half for what he would normally work. What this says, if I ask Chris or Dave to come in on Christmas Day, instead of paying them $11 an hour, whatever we're paying, we're gonna be paying them $18 an hour. And I don't know why that got in there, but it did.
Okay.
Somebody,
Because I am lost, that's always gonna happen reading this thing, because the holiday list you made out, they get that time off.
yeah.
So it's always gonna be another.
No, the paid guys that are on shift,
Yeah,
they get their 24 hours, and then they get 12 hours premium pay for working the holiday.
that's not,
Why would you give them premium pay and not these guys premium pay?
Because they're scheduled to work a holiday.
If you're forcing volunteers to
I'm
come
not
in,
forcing the volunteer to work a holiday.
you're asking them to come in.
If they wanna come in, hey, Chris, would you come in Christmas Day? Chris is gonna say yes or no.
I'm lost, because what I'm trying to get to you is that in here where it says the holidays, and you haven't stated in there.
Right.
So that would tell me, that any of our full-time employees, staff employees, that they can have these days off.
No,
They have their shifts no matter where they fall. Those are the recognized holidays. If their
Right.
shift falls on the
if their
holiday.
shift falls on that holiday,
Well-
they get a 12-hour premium.
They got a
Right,
time
and
and a
where
half.
he was going and what I'm trying to get to then, fine, say that Captain, he wants to go visit grandma on Christmas Day, so he's not gonna work, okay?
He can't take it off.
Can't take it off.
It's his
It's in the
shift.
policy, he can't take it off.
Right, and my thought was then, I mean, I always like a backup. And if you get hurt, I guess, or a doctor, you're safe, but you can't go. To me, I think we somewhat owe them that if they're an employee and they wanna do that. And if it's scheduled with you prior to that, and he tells you he wants to do that, then anybody else could fill the shift. I guess that's where I'm saying. Now, premium time, no, it would be whatever it is. I just want to be fair to the men, saying, well, yeah, they work, they're 365 days a year, and you're telling them that if they're scheduled, they might miss Thanksgiving, they might miss Christmas. And to me, I don't think that's fair. If one of them hits Thanksgiving, maybe the other one works Christmas or New Year's, to make it fair for everybody. And
Well, I think they hit Thanksgiving and Christmas together, don't you?
I think this year I have Thanksgiving and Christmas Eve maybe, or Christmas Day or so.
I'm just
But
saying-
I'll work that, and then usually the following year I have it off.
That's where I was going.
Yeah, it rotates. I mean, your holidays rotate throughout the years. I'm not always gonna have Thanksgiving or Christmas, so.
Right.
And this is just for the volunteer side of it.
Seems like we should pay the volunteers time and a half.
Well,
You
that's what
guys
it
get
says.
paid,
That's what it says.
yeah.
So
Well,
you really want to put it in there.
The only reason I changed my
That's
thought on
No,
that is,
no.
if the paid are getting time and a half for being on the shift, and we ask someone to, and they accept it, I don't see why we wouldn't give them the same,
Okay.
even though they're, that's just my thought, I'm just, it's,
You're right.
we're asking you to, and you said yes. The paid guys get it, so should they. That's 4 times a year.
I think that's, I agree with that.
You okay with that?
Yeah, I'm okay with
To me, that's no more than fair.
Well, it's incentive.
It is.
We get the
Sure.
paid
They do a
guys
ton of
time and a half.
stuff.
And I think that's probably
Volunteer
where we
comes
came
in.
from when we first put
It
this.
probably was. I figured I was right,
But
I
I
just
figured
didn't know
I-
why.
Equal pay for equal work.
There you go.
You knew
She's
you were
a
right.
female firefighter here.
You're gonna make somebody a good wife. Okay, that was all I had on that. If you guys find something else,
You wanna make this,
we'll make an item for action
next time?
That's good. Thanks for doing that.
next. And your board bylaws are due for review in October. So I'll get that back to you, because that states in there that they have to be reviewed every 2 years.
What, all of the policies?
All of your policies, no, just the board bylaws, not all of our policies.
Oh, okay.
Board.
The,
We need to
our
update them.
guidelines are reviewed periodically. your board bylaws have to be reviewed every 2 years. Like,
Let's change that.
Should.
well, then when you review the
Well, then we
policy.
won't remember why we changed it though.
And
Somebody,
that,
Okay.
and they're completely up to us, or do they have to be then
No,
reviewed by
these
the county?
bylaws are up to you guys.
Is that completely up to us?
okay, only other question, I had the auditors will be here when?
Monday.
Monday, and they normally like to talk to the treasurer and me.
Yep.
We don't know when though, be,
No, Wagner hasn't even given us all the, it's been held up this year by Wagner, they got taken over by that O'Donnell, and they've been behind, because usually we have it done by this time, so we're waiting on Wagner to get us all up. Because what they're doing is every time the auditor comes in with something, well, Wagner didn't have this, or Wagner didn't have that, so now they're like, I am, they don't wanna get no more auditor hits, so they're doing a whole lot more work than they're supposed to be doing, so I keep telling them, I said, the audit's bid, it doesn't make any difference how much work they have to do.
So how much notice do we get? I mean, they call us.
Oh, an hour, hour and a half.
Oh, wow.
Well, I'll give you, they'll come in on, if they come in on Monday, I'll ask when they wanna talk to you guys. So, and they're usually here like 3 or 4 days.
It's next Monday, huh?
Yeah.
21st.
So don't leave in town. Don't leave in town.
I will be leaving town on, 24th, Thursday, is that Thursday, 24th on Thursday?
24th Thursday.
Yeah, we're going to Louisiana, leaving 24th and come back
We look at the
Monday.
name.
the following Monday.
Next meeting's the 5th, is that a good day?
no.
Are you kidding me?
Cinco de Mayo,
Oh,
serving margaritas that night?
well, sure.
Okay, that's all right then.
Might have to meet across the street.
I'll be there.
I'm good for the fizz.
Wait, well, let's check, Charlie, we
Are you
ready now?
sure, Charlie? We can adjust.
I know.
We can change the date.
No.
Okay, next board meeting's tentatively slotted for, May 5th. Anything else? If not, motion to adjourn?
I move.
I'll second
I'll
that.
second that, but don't everybody eat, that's what
Okay, motion and second.
Lisa Snodgrass,
Yes.
Charlie Shoemaker,
Yeah.
Jeff Flynn,
Yes.
Jim Westmoreland,
Yes.
Dean Milburn.
Yes, thank you all very much.